Welcome back to Sports Talk with Robert Allen and friends here on Triple Play Sports, 1020 1580 1051. Furniture Showcase is our location on this Monday, 5th and Main in Stillwater. And again, you don't have to go to Oklahoma City or Tulsa, folks. I mean, these people have every brand, every model that they have here. It's a former theater. I took my wife on dates to the Leachman Theater. Now it's a furniture store, and it's huge. It's awesome. It's still got that theater ambiance, which I like. All right, somebody who always has ambiance, and he married over his head. I can guarantee you that, because I've met his family, great family, and that's Charles Davis, who is your NFL broadcaster on both Fox and the NFL Network. Used to be doing all the college gigs, and I loved it because we'd compare notes, and he's a great note taker. So former outstanding player at Tennessee, and Charles joins us now. Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm doing well, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing good. I got to ask you, your buddy, and you guys really played off each other well over the years at both the Senior Bowl and the Combine. Did you miss Mike Mayock in his new role with the Oakland Raiders as a GM? Because you didn't have him there, and he could be a sourpuss too during some of the practices. And I mean, I loved it. And you're a buoyant, positive guy, so it was a really good give and take with you guys. You miss him?
Yeah, of course I miss him because Mike's a great friend and a tremendous evaluator. I'm very happy for him that he's gotten this opportunity to go and be the general manager of the Oakland Raiders. It's something he's worked towards for a lot of years. I don't think people were very conscious of it. And, he didn't make him that way, but he's been training for that role for a while, even while he was, spearheading our draft coverage at NFL Network. But, while we miss him, I think Daniel Jeremiah has stepped in and done a fantastic job, becoming Mike, so to speak. And it won't be long before we'll just be talking about Daniel in that role. But, yeah, of course we miss Mike because he brings so much to the table. And, he's a valued and great friend of mine as well. So you always miss those guys. But I'm really happy he's able to live his dream. That's pretty cool.
Old school guy, and I guess after yesterday and last night, he's got Antonio Brown. That's a big time talent, but can also, I guess, be a big time headache. But we've seen that with a lot of the pro players. But what do you think of that move for the Raiders?
Yeah, we see it out a lot of college players too. We just don't advertise it quite the same, I mean, everybody who's got that kind of, I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people have that kind of talent. They always think they're open on every pass play, and they want the ball on every pass. But I think it went deeper than that. They've got some issues in Pittsburgh that they're trying to work their way through, and obviously with Antonio and he and Big Ben hit loggerheads, and it sounds like administration did the same thing with him. But talent-wise, it's hard to beat. And for Oakland, I don't think they make this deal that they absolutely have to give up a one. They have 3 number ones coming up in the draft. I don't know that anyone in the league, Robert, makes a deal for Antonio Brown to have to give up a number 1 pick. For Oakland, doing it at a 3 and at a 5, that's like that family member coming home and saying, "Hey, I spent $1,000 on such and such, but I actually got it at 50% off." And you're like, "Yeah, but you still spent $1,000." But getting it 50% off feels like a great deal. Well, in this case, this is probably a great deal because even if it doesn't work out, they didn't give up as much draft capital as what Pittsburgh wanted and what Antonio Brown thought he was going to receive for his services. So this is a great deal for them and gives Derek Carr a true number 1 receiver again after they let Amari Cooper go to Dallas in the trade last year. So to me, I get it. There's a lot of, let's see how Antonio reacts. My thing has always been, Robert, you go from a team where perennially you're competing for division titles and Super Bowls to a team that's been to the playoffs once in the last, 20 years or so. If you're going to have problems in Pittsburgh, how are you going to react if your team's 3-8, 4-12? How are you going to react then? Well, a draft pick, giving up only a 3 and a 5, I think it made it worth Oakland to have that opportunity. And like any team, you always think the guy's going to act better with your program than they did with the others. And I think that's what Oakland is looking towards as well.
All right, folks, that was the warm-up. I know out there everybody's going, Why is Robert asking him about Antonio Brown? Get to the Justice Hill and Jordan Brailford. He's from the combine, and that's where we're going. I realize those guys didn't have stars or lights around their names heading to Indianapolis, but with what they did in the testing, talking about Justice Hill at running back and Jordan Brailford, and again, same high school. Same high school, Booker T. Washington in Tulsa, same university, Oklahoma State University. And tomorrow's pro day. Today's first day of spring practice, tomorrow's pro day. They did neither one did their field testing. I never heard why Jordan didn't. Justice had the second 40, kind of felt the twinge in his hamstring and set it out. What did they do for themselves? And by doing their field testing all at pro day, what are they doing for Taylor Cornelius and the rest of the guys that weren't at the combine? The scouts will get to see them tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of laid it all out. It's kind of there you go. But bottom line about the whole thing is, look, they didn't test at the combine in certain ways, but everybody's seen their tape and has made their evaluations and continues to do so on that. I think there's a lot more buzz on Justice Hill. In fact, as we went into it, he was one of the guys that was spotlighted by Daniel Jeremiah before their day began as a guy to keep an eye on. And as you said, he twinged a little, so smart move, pulled himself out, and he'll come back and do all this stuff here at his pro day. But we've loved his ability to run the football, both inside, being able to get out into the open field. I think he's a heck of a player and is going to be someone's going to make someone very, very happy. Remember Chris Carson, who plays so well down in Seattle? He was a 7th-round pick. A lot of people thought he didn't have what they were looking for. He fit Seattle perfectly in that one cut, run inside with his power and physicality, something that maybe wasn't spotlighted as much in the way that Oklahoma State runs offense. So it worked out for him. But Justice Hill kind of fit what they were doing absolutely under Mike Gundy and crew and Yurcik and the whole deal. So that fits well. For Brailford, he's got to go out and show. He's already got his tape out there. He's got to go out and show his stuff. And the other guys who are there, they'll have to do the exact same thing. But every year, Robert, we talk about guys being ranked, this, and this. And we always end up with guys emerging from other places. I mean, how many undrafted free agents have we seen go to the Pro Bowl, figure in, 7th-round picks like Julian Edelman becoming Super Bowl MVPs? Just go out and show your wares. If you just get an opportunity, that can propel you in that league.
It was interesting going back to the combine broadcast. Daniel Jeremiah, right after Jordan Brailford ran his first 40, he said, I don't know why Oklahoma State did with him what they did. And Jim Knowles came in and moved him to a kind of a jackknife mode on the defensive line. He'd line up as an edge. He'd line up as an outside linebacker. He lined up some at middle linebacker, and they even ran some Tampa coverage with him being the guy that drops back. And I remember Jeremiah saying, just let this guy rush the passer. But a funny thing was, we thought as the season went on, because he had good numbers and he did a pretty good job in that jackknife position, that may have enhanced his NFL pedigree or his NFL value. Daniel kind of felt like, no, it really didn't. We just want him to do what he does best.
Well, I think it just depends on what team. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just think it depends on what team drafts him, Robert. Because if you look back at the Super Bowl and what the Patriots did with those jackknife, as you said, players where one play they're rushing the passer, the next play they're dropping in coverage, they're moving from spot to spot, being able to change your game plan and implement it that way, he would have value to those types of teams. A Matt Patricia now in Detroit who follows in those footsteps, a Brian Flores who takes over in Miami, who's coming out of that Patriot system. That type of player has that value. Other teams may very well see him like Daniel sees him as a better pass rusher, put him in one spot, and his production and his value increases because he does the same thing over and over and gets better at doing it. So it's just a matter of how people view him. I don't see it as a negative that he was able to play all over the place. It might be a negative in terms of where he might get drafted. Maybe he might not go as high depending on how people value that. But all in all, the ability to play multiple positions I don't think is ever a bad thing.
Charles Davis with us, and again, Charles does NFL broadcasts for Fox and does a lot of work for the NFL Network, and We quite frankly miss him on college games because I thought he was absolutely the best college analyst, and he's climbing the ladder among the NFL analysts. But yeah, there's a lot of OSU guys that were out there last year. You mentioned, Chris up there, Chris Carson at Seattle. On the other side, Pete Carroll took Trey Flowers, turned him from a safety at OSU into a big corner for the Seahawks. We have all the guys that ended up in Pittsburgh with, didn't see much of Mason Rudolph, didn't expect to. Did see quite a bit of James Washington, kind of up and down. As you peruse the landscape of the NFL and the Cowboys that are out there, just your thoughts on any or all of them.
Well, I think, for the most part, what you're getting guys who are well coached, getting guys who played big time football, and I think that more and more as they get acclimated, and I think, about a Blake Jarwin, who I saw at the end of last season catch 3 touchdown passes against the Giants in Week 17, the last game of the season, really starting to come on and play better. So you see guys continue to develop, but they've got a great background and a great starting point coming from OSU. Being able to for Pete Carroll to look at a Trey Flowers and project and say, he fits what we do out at the corner better than what he does at safety. Well, that's a heck of a deal right there. That tells you about his athletic ability and his ability to adapt and be versatile, So when you see guys out there, you see those OSU Cowboys, you don't worry too much about them being able to play because you have very few misses and a lot more hits than when you talk about drafting out of Oklahoma State. So I think that's pretty cool across the league. You mentioned Carson. I mentioned Carson earlier, of course. And just everywhere you look and everywhere you see guys, they're going to come in and compete.
Yeah, Vincent Taylor was back a couple of weeks ago at a basketball game, and I think he's doing pretty good in Miami. He'll have a fresh face head coach, and I think everybody here too, Charles, is going to be interested in seeing if Mason. He's got some time with the Steelers, having the established veteran starter, but if Mason can kind of groom himself to be that next guy in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this first year he was able to sit back, obviously, because Ben was there, but he also was able to sit back and truly be the third guy because Josh Dobbs ended up winning the number 2 job, which I think was a surprise for a lot of people because I think, including myself, I thought that Mason would end up being the third guy behind Landry Jones. I thought they'd go one more year with him. But once they cut Landry Jones, I thought, okay, if they're going to go the rookie at number 2, and Josh Dobbs did a really nice job in the offseason and the preseason putting himself in that spot. So it'll be interesting to see the battle going forward for them about who the 2 is and whether Pittsburgh sees that as a future or not. And nowadays with the movement skills and, using a little bit more quarterback run game across the NFL, that's where Dobbs actually fits a little bit better. Mason's going to fit better when you're just purely stepping back and throwing the football. So it'll be fun to watch as they continue to battle going forward. But that was a heck of a transition for him and really a good spot to be in because as a rookie quarterback, if you're not anointed to be the starter, being able to sit back and absorb isn't such a bad thing. I mean, it didn't kill Pat Mahomes by any stretch of the imagination, and he ended up throwing 50 touchdown passes the second year. Now, we both know that's an outlier, and that's off the chart, and there aren't many Pat Mahomes running around. That was absolutely phenomenal. But there is value in not being the starter, not being the guy right away as a quarterback in the NFL, even though, as we've seen, Robert, when they draft them, they play them pretty quickly nowadays, especially if they're drafting them in the first round.
Yeah, and it could be pretty crazy with that Arizona and Cliff Kingsbury there as the head coach now of the Cardinals sitting in that one position. It's going to give everybody in your business a lot to talk about all the way till that gavel falls and the first pick is made. Hey, last thing, and this is kind of a more of a conceptual type question. You did a lot of games in our conference during the heyday of Patrick Mahomes and the spread offense and what Big 12 offenses were doing. And now you got to look back and say, that's really prepared me well because this type of offense is following me to the NFL.
Yeah, and it's the first time truly in NFL history that, I shouldn't say truly, but in a long, long time, that the colleges have given the NFL what they're utilizing. And it's not because the colleges didn't have the capability before. They did. The NFL just refused to accept it. And so that's where things have changed now. Because I can tell you, Robert, I've had two stints in the NFL now, 2009 and 10, and now since 2015, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood, 2014 season. What I've seen in terms of the colleges bubbling things up to the NFL is I've actually seen acceptance. I've actually seen NFL coaches who have said, something, there's value there. Whereas in previous times, when I was there 9 and 10, I can just tell you, when things were bubbled up, there were a great many coaches that would say, nope, we don't run that Joe College stuff here. This is the NFL. This is how we do it. I kind of go back to that lockout year, and Cam Newton got drafted, Andy Dalton got drafted, and they didn't have the OTAs, they didn't have mini camp, and they got to camp, and both of them started game one. And I give Cincinnati and I give Carolina a lot of credit for saying we got to beat these guys halfway, because we can't just implement every pro technique going. They haven't done that yet. What have they done in college? How did they do it well? What can we? And all of a sudden they found out a lot of stuff worked, and it has spread throughout the league. Look, an old dog like Andy Reid probably runs as many college concepts as any coach in the league, if not more. And that has been fun to watch because of what he did with Alex Smith first, now with Mahomes. He's doing shuffle passes to Travis Kelce, his tight end, the jet sweep stuff and other things with Tyreek Hill. That's just one example. But look across the league, and we're seeing it everywhere. So, yeah, being able to see the college concepts bubble up to the pros has been a lot of fun. And it has helped me, as you said, because I got to see it on the front end when they were running it all in college. But it's a lot of fun now to see some of these coaches you thought would never go in that direction. They're doing it in a big way, and yeah, it's working in the NFL in a great degree.
Yeah, fun thing for us. I mentioned Pro Day here tomorrow, first day of spring football today, and the Cowboys have a new offensive coordinator. Sean Gleason comes in from Princeton, and man, people talk about him there like he's on the fast track to being a head coach at least the college level. And then Charlie Dickey, you probably ran across him at K-State, the O-line coach.
K-State. Yep.
He takes Josh Henson's spot, and I've known Coach Dickey a long time. I have a great deal of respect for him. So it's going to be a little bit of an interesting spring with some new people and some places for Mike Gundy.
Yeah, but the beauty is Mike Gundy's still the head coach, and he's going to have these guys implementing stuff that under his direction. It's kind of like watching Remember the Titans, You're going to run, you can be the D coordinator under my direction, under my overall scheme. And that's what Mike Gundy has going. So that's a good thing. And, yeah, Sean Gleason comes highly recommended and highly touted. And the last time, you remember, when Mike went and brought in, Yurcich, everybody lost their mind, bringing in a D2 guy and this, that, and everything. I think he helped pave the way for less of that now because, look, coaching is coaching, concepts are concepts, and he's got better people now to implement some of the stuff he did. But if you watch his Princeton offenses and saw the number of players, Ivy League Player of the Year, records being set, they did a lot of great stuff schematically there that I think will play well at Oklahoma State and throughout the Big 12.
Hey, Charles, good luck with everything. We'll look forward to seeing you on the draft and all that you're doing. And then I always enjoy tuning in and catching your game on Sundays on the NFL. So, again, always good to talk to you. And anytime you need something this direction, let me know.
You know I will, Robert, and you know how much I appreciate it and value it. So, I'll be calling you to talk to you about some of those Cowboys and a bunch of guys in the Big 12 and around the country you may have seen because I always respect what you give me, and it helps me greatly. And thanks for having me on, and hello to everyone in Big 12 country.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Charles Davis from Fox Sports and the NFL Network, and does terrific work at the Combine, Senior Bowl. I think, someday I'm going to go to the Senior Bowl because that just looks like one heck of a week of just football. Just football.